Alrighty, old Gatekeeper here. I've already started on this. I haven't even got the side off here yet. And I wasn't going to make a pre-video, but something hit me and told me to go ahead and do it. Basically, I'm recording from my little old tablet I have, so the quality is not going to be as good. My phone, the battery in my phone took a croak on me the other day. I left it in the car charging, and it fried. Got too hot. But anyway, we've got a newer style Davemade. Okay. And I see they're still keeping the old default thing of putting the front upside down. But you know, a lot of people's got their things of why they do that. One of them that I have heard was in competitions, they wanted to have the box turned that way because if the box got so hot that the solder melted, the solder or whatever would fall on top of the fan or the top, and it wouldn't short anything out. Better chance of nothing smearing out and shorting anything out. At least that's what I've heard a few people say. And then I heard somebody else say that it was just an accident, this and that, but I don't really believe that part because, well, they say it was an accident because they wanted the variable on the left side and the switch on the right side, and when they ordered the case, it was the manufacturer's fault, and they ordered thousands and thousands of them, which I mean, I can't believe that, definitely, because I could definitely understand that for sure. But since the variable is being took off this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this front and we're going to flip it around. And so anyway, I just want to make a pre-video, just show the inside of it. It's fairly new. There's been a transistor blowing this already. Can't remember if it was all DEIs or not. I think it might have been. I think it was all DEIs. The guy got all brand new non-dot Toshibas put in here, and the driver is still DEI. Okay, we're going to be popping that DEI driver out and putting the Toshiba 2290 in. And you can see that this 4.7 is charred here. I always like to double up if I can on two 4.7s right there, if I can, or just put some heftier. I usually put about two 4.7s myself. We're going to be taking this variable out. I've seen people starting to use these variables, but it's something about the variable itself having some problems with them. Now this style, Texas Star used this style, but in a 20 ohm, and it seems to work just fine. But I don't think it's a pure 2 watts, if you ask me. I think it's more like a 1 watt variable. But other than that, there's a few other things that I'm going to change around in here. I'm going to take the power wires off and resolder them. I don't think somebody had enough heat on them. The ground wire there's barely, it's not really inside the solder, it's more on top. We'll put there's also not a strain relief back there. Okay, we're going to be popping this off. We're going to be throwing this 8-pin microphone jack on there, because we're going to be going with a 4-channel Wiimote module, which will be the first time of me using that. It's a different module than I normally use. It's from a different company. I've just tested it. It seems to work good. The remote coverage doesn't seem to be as good as my normal Wiimotes. There's a remote right there. It doesn't seem to be as good coverage, meaning I can go walk across the yard and turn it on. That's the only thing I've noticed really that's different, and everything else seems to be the same. Alright. Old Gatekeeper, we're going to go ahead and get this side off right here so I can have some room to work in this thing and get to work on it. Got a lot of wires to run. Got a preamp to build too. Already got that right there cut out to build the preamp with the invert circuit. Got my little schematic there too. I haven't built enough of them to memorize them in my head yet. I got to build about 50 of them. I think I've only built about maybe 20, 25. Alright, we're good and gone. Bye-bye. Alright, brother. I just want to let you see that things are coming along. We got the old Dave took apart here, man. We done replaced the transistor with a non-dot 2290. Getting all our wires ran. I mean, this thing right here is going to be wired up, brother. We got one more small relay to get implemented. This amp will have 1, 2, 3, 4 relays in this thing, man. 5, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relays. Here's your preamp with invert circuit. Okay. Get that already mounted and wired up almost. Here's your strain relief right there. We'll be putting in and out stickers right there. Already got the wire whole board out there for the 8-pin plug. So got a lot of wires already hidden already. You can't even tell because they're hidden. And one of them wires is the power wire for the output of this transistor right here. Can't even see it, can you? Where is it at? I hadn't upgraded the wire on that too. I think I'm going to upgrade these chokes too, man. It's just something I feel better about. Probably at least upgrade to 14, or maybe do something like old Mr. 073 does. Might throw some of that 10 gauge up on there or something. Alright, man. Look at that, man. Almost like I got 3 computer screens up right here. These are my notes. Keeps me going fluently. Yeah. There's actually more notes than this right here. That keeps my mind fluent. Alrighty. Old Gatekeeper, man. We're gonna go ahead and put another night to it. This is day 3. We didn't get to spend a lot of time on it the last 2 days though, because it was a weekend plus the old mom's birthday there and stuff like that. So this is or shall I say, night number 3. Yeah. Alrighty. Sorry, I know the last little clip was done with my regular phone, so it was a little bit better quality than this one. I was not able to record right now with that one. Like I said, it's currently a little on the broke side of things, but we're going to be getting it all straightened out tomorrow. Anyway, take a look at my tip. I don't know how well you can see that on this camera. You see it's really black and nasty. Alright, when I first was taking these power wires out of this box, I noticed that it did not look like they were soldered down well enough. I noticed that right off the rip, but now I know why. Alright. Basically, there's pretty much about 2 types of wire that you can purchase out there. Give me a second. Let me should have done this before I started the video. Let me pull out my some wire, the wire that I currently use. Okay. Alright. Let's see here. Alright. Alright. As see 2058 strands. These are the three letters right here that you're looking for. OFC. Okay, OFC. Here is what you don't want. CCA, copper clad aluminum. When I first was purchasing from this company, I ordered, before I did anything else with them, before I spent a couple of $100, I ordered this wire, another wire of the OFC of the same length, and just checked them out and seen how each one did. And I quickly figured out that this aluminum clad is junk. I really should throw this away, but it's okay to use with stuff that you're going to be crimping to or something like that. And it also doesn't hold as much current as OFC does. But basically, this stuff does not solder worth a hoot. It is not fun at all soldering with this. Okay. I quickly figured out that's the type of wire that you have here, my man. I know it's not your fault, man. It's whoever. It's just one of them things, man. You know, a lot of people don't even know the difference of it, you know, until you get to soldering it down and notice that it just doesn't pull solder towards it. Now, I have learned a way to solder this stuff down to make it work properly. And it just takes a little bit of extra time. Like, I don't know if you can see now, but I mean, this was done with my Hatco 936 turned pretty much almost all the way up. And as you see, the solder's not engulfed around it like it should be. Same thing on the hot bus. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of trickery there to get pretty much the solder engulfed around it and all around it that I do. And you'll see it here when I get done. But basically, I was kind of up to a dilemma. Because the first instinct is take this wire out, take your plug off, and get some of my 4 gauge right here and use it. Some of my OCF 4 gauge. But there's only one problem with that. Take a look at the different size of this wire. I mean, all you need is 8 gauge for a 1x4, but take a look at the size of the wire. This size right here is a little thicker than this. This is almost as thick as my 8 gauge is, just a little bit thicker. And the problem is this strain relief. I already had to Dremel out this strain relief just a bit to get these 2 4s to fit in there. So I would have to do a lot of extra work, take the strain relief out, go to the next size bigger, which is a little bit too big for just 2 4s, but it would work. And basically it'd be just a lot less work for me to do what I'm about to do now. It's just basically do a little bit of extra work to get this wire completely soldered to this board and to this hot bus properly. Okay, it just needs a little bit of extra help since this is aluminum clad and it just does not take solder well, so you have to reinforce the connection. Okay, because there's no way I could let this box leave just sitting like this. But I should have noticed that from the get-go. I personally have not had another box come through. I hadn't had a box ever come through here that had aluminum clad in here. The first time I had ever seen it is when I ordered it from this company to take a look at. I mean, you can sit there and see the shininess of that, man. That's that aluminum, just kind of a little bit of copper. It's pretty much 90% tinned aluminum, about 10% copper, if I remember correctly. So anyway, I just wanted to show that out. Maybe somebody can learn from that. Just do not use aluminum clad copper or copper clad aluminum. It's real hard to work with to get it soldered. It's okay to use it if you're going to be crimping something or screwing it into a connector or something like that. It's perfectly fine to use it that way. But just when it comes to soldering, okay, that's all I'm talking about. When it comes to soldering, it's very hard to work with, and you kind of got to develop a little technique to get it soldered down so all the current can be passed good. But it's just fine. I mean, it's fine. 4 gauges overkill. So it'll be just fine after I get this done. And then we'll be ready to test this out and get the Y-Mote version built. Take a look at that stiff 8, man. That is 8 gauge Teflon. Thought I'd try something new. Shout out to Mr. 7.3. I'm gone. Alrighty, brother. We got your front panel all wired up. Ready to be mounted back on to the box. And you even got you an indicator LED so you'll know if you're on high or low. I'll demonstrate that to you. See if I can do this with one hand here. Alrighty. Here's your main on and off. Okay. Right now you would be in high. The easy way to indicate that the LED is on top is high, the LED on the bottom is low. I know that's kind of backwards. You would see some things, you know, switch up is high, switch down is low, but the way you can look at this is when it switches down, there's no input padding. When it switches up, you have input padding, okay? And since we're turning on and off pretty much a ground signal to the relay for that, and the reason why we're using the relay for that is because of the remote module, because we can't send RF, you know, 18 feet down a cord and back. You won't have none left. So that's the reason why we pretty much had an extra relay, pretty much just to switch the LEDs like that on and off, since we're using the ground. So, but no big deal. Just drew a quick schematic right there and pretty much followed it. Didn't take about maybe 15 minutes. All right, so that would be low. That would be high. Okay. Here's your preamp. And as you see, you can turn your amp off, turn your main relay off. Preamp still works. That's because you have an invert circuit in your preamp, which we talked about. All right, since I'm already showing this, I won't have to go over this again once the box is completely done. So the preamp can work with the amplifier in barefoot mode. Okay, you have that invert circuit that's going to be bypassing the relay. All right, and here's your SSB delay right there. SSB on, SSB off. All right, bud. About to mount this thing, get it wired up, and get some more stuff done to the inside, and then we'll be working on the 4-channel Y-Mote with transmit LED. Alrighty, Mr. Dave. Finally done with this bad boy, man. Got quite a few hours in this. I guess you can call it a slight repair, but mostly modification, major modification you can call it. And I got the side of the amp off just so you can get a good view of everything. I'll put that side back on there before I ship it back to you, but that's how I had to work on it too. So anyway, we'll just kind of try to zoom through this. I'm kind of in a hurry. So basically, here's all the parts that came out of it. There might have been a few more. I don't know. I kind of let them. Let's see what this is. I kind of let them kind of get mixed up a little here and there, but these are pretty much all the main parts that came out of it. There's your variable. I'm not a huge fan of these type variables. I don't even think they're really truly 2 watts. I think they're more like a 1 watt variable, but that was the variable right there. They tend to go bad a good bit. These type of variables right here, they don't hold a lot of heat. All right, there's your remote that was right here. Okay, now we got an 8-pin connector, as you've already seen from the pre-videos. Alrighty, this is all it had in it for the output capacitor. Let's see if I can get that to zoom in. Alright, say that, a little DM19 150. I mean, that will hold up for a little while, but I like to try to beef it up a little bit. Try to put at least this with a metal clad or metal clad in series with this to equal up the load. Make it a little bit heavier a load on the output cap. So went ahead and got you that big old $5 cap right there, man. That $5 150 ceramic. I think it's a 5 kilovolt, or is it 3 kilovolt? Anyway, so I went ahead and replaced that. I just felt better to do that. There it is, right down in there. Okay. Of course, that's your knob. This was in between the 1 pill section and the 2, and you can tell it got a little hot. I usually don't like to single that up in between. I always like to at least double or triple. Mr. 73, sometimes he'll even quadruple that bad boy. So it's good to have a little bit of power handling capability right there, just in case somebody's driving a little hard. Okay, here's your 2290 DEI, which still works, and we traded in, took some money off towards the 2290. Okay, there's your non-dot 2290. Let's see if we can. There we go. Sorry, I ain't got a lot of lighting right here. It's about to storm over here in northeast Georgia. There it is. To match your non-dot 2879s. Okay. These were your chokes. Okay. I didn't go with an B plus mod like I do sometimes. I want to give a major shout out to Mr. 73. That's kind of his style. I've seen him do before, and I've kind of liked it. That right there is 8 gauge Teflon, son. 8 gauge Teflon. I mean, that right there is about stiff as a board right there, buddy. Got your 5 ferrite beads on each one. Give a shout out to Mr. Matt. He actually sold me them bad boys. I think I already gave him a shout out in one of the other pre-videos. I like to give people shout outs and credit where credit's needed. You know what I mean? So anyway, man, so we went from powering each of the 2 transistors with this, 18 or 16 gauge, to stiff 8 gauge. I mean, you can tell which one's going to power. Of course, this right here is definitely enough for it. To me, it just makes me feel better, and I think the amp runs a lot cooler when you heavy it up like that right there, and especially feed each one individually. All right. The only other thing I didn't do, which I thought about doing, was taking these 500s off, but I understand that metal clads have been kind of scarce lately. They haven't been scarce over here since I've invested in so many of them, and I don't, go through them real fast or nothing, but the amp's working real good with them. They're definitely strong enough. You got 2 500 volts together, 500 picofarads equaling 1,000. So I just thought I'd leave it on there, So it's good to go. Anyway, here's your switch that was in there. And as you can see, man, I went ahead and upgraded to a heavy-duty switch for all your switches. I went ahead and reran your wire feeding the output transformer right here. This is 14 gauge. There was this same wire right here on it, which is somewhere over there. And we got that hidden up under the board, man. We pretty much took everything off the hot bus. Sorry for moving around a lot. We pretty much took everything off the hot bus, and I rewired the whole entire hot bus. You got wires hidden here, hidden there. And so just to kind of neaten things up a bit so you wouldn't have a lot of wires hanging on here. There's the power wires that I had to redo. Now I would say they're soldered about as good as they're going to get soldered with that aluminum clad. So they're good to go now, man. Real good to go. There's your preamp with the invert circuit. You can run the preamp with the box off. And there's your high and low. That's your high and low circuit right here. Okay, and the whole thing about this whole thing was that you wanted this box to be fully remote head driven. Oh, one more thing. I had to retune the input. There was a little bit of reflecting there, probably due to the extra wiring that's in here now on the RF going through the high and low switch and everything. It needed to come down like 10 more picofarad, man. So we got that thing tuned out real well for you now. Output is great. In between is great. So anyway, you wanted this amp fully remote head driven, meaning this amp can be fully controlled with a wireless remote. Well, you got it, my man. Each LED is indicating each of the 4 switches. The LED at the top, that's your transmit light. It's the first time that I've ever done the 4-channel Y mode. Equipped with an 8-pin there. The only thing I've noticed, this is a different remote module than I normally use. The coverage doesn't seem nowhere near as well as the single and dual Y modes that I do. I'm gonna test it out for you, bud, but I may have to actually add a telescopic remote back here in the back, or at least a piece of wire to kind of help with the coverage. I don't know why. It's just a different module than I have used. So, you know, it is what it is. Ain't no big deal, man. I'll play around with it and see. You know, maybe I can kind of help the coverage without having to do all that. All right, so first, I'm going to go ahead and put this to the side. We're going to show the amp working without the Y mode hooked up. That's the neat thing about this. Some amplifiers that are fully remote head driven has to have a remote plugged up to work. Like a Messenger 1200, a couple other boxes I've seen out there. This right here works intermediate without it or with it. That's why I had to do a lot of the extra labor there to get everything hooked up and wired just right, man. I mean, this thing took a second, man, to get everything just right. As you can see, this thing has 5 relays in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main relays. So, well, I think you're gonna be happy with it, Brad. All right, man. Let me go ahead. I think we got everything ready to go. All right, we're on the 100 amp supply. We got it on the low tap, on the medium tap, I mean. We're on the 4-watt radio, 4 watts RMS. Okay. There's your preamp. Let me go ahead and turn it on down here. Turn up the volume. Off. On. Off. On. Off. On. Off. On. Let me turn it down. The amplifier is turned off. It's barefoot. Hear that key? I'm keying the mic now. Unkey. So you can use that preamp with the box off. The RF does bypass the preamp, so you can talk on it barefoot. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh. There you go. All right, and the reason why I don't have the Y mode hooked up right yet, because we're on the unregulated supply, I'm going to hook it up to the batteries, because that Y mode is voltage sensitive. He's going to be running this in a mobile, so I didn't have to voltage regulate the Y mode. That's a little bit extra work. So I'm going to hook the Y mode up after we do show you the output of everything, and go hook up the batteries just to show you that it's functional. All right, there's your high and low. All right, let me explain your high and low, okay? The LED at the top is indicating you're on high, okay? The LED at the bottom is indicating you're on low. Another way to look at it is when you turn the switch down, the padding is turned off. When you turn the switch up, the padding is turned on. So you're low, okay? That's what that little white relay there is for, just for the LEDs to make that work properly. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn it on high first, which is on high now. All right, we're on a 1,000-watt slug. That gives you right there about a 100-watt dead key. Remember when you said you were having a problem and you didn't really have no dead key? You were swinging too much? Well, I fixed that problem. That was a little bit in the tuning for you. And I think it had something to do with the variable as well. So on high, just with a 1-watt dead key, you're right there at a 100-watt dead key, man, which is a really good place to be. Come on now, focus, 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 focus. All right, 1,000-watt slug RMS. Oh, about 320 RMS. Oh, 13.8 volts. I mean, that's amazing for the medium tap. All right, we're on the PEP. Right there about, I'd say about 900, 850 to 900. And on 13.8, man, that's remarkable. That's very nice, very nice. All right, let me show you the difference. We're gonna put it on low, okay? Now look at your dead key with a 1-watt dead key. You have no dead key, okay? At that point, you could turn your dead key up, like if you were running a little bit higher of a dead key. I think you said you might be running a 2-watt dead key possibly. You could turn your dead key up and you can kind of see what the difference of that, kind of pick which one you want to run with. Okay, here's the output. It takes a little bit away from the output on the RMS, not too much. About 250. About 250 watts, okay? All right, we're going to go ahead and flip over to the high tap. This is just with the bench radio now, y'all. This amplifier is working remarkable. That 2290, man, you got lucky too, man, because that 2290 is brand spanking new. I'd tell you if it was used. It's new, man. You got lucky. I had one left that was new that I had got from a personal buddy of mine a couple of years ago that I found. And because I was going to use a used one. We actually had talked about just using a used one. And I got quite a few used ones. But I knew that these 2879s were brand new and you had just got them put in. So I thought I'd just kind of, even things out and put a new 2290 in for you. We worked out all that. All right, RMS, medium tap. Dude, look at that, almost 400 just with the bench radio, man. This thing is smoking, son. Dude, right there at 400 bird. I mean, you can't beat that with a stick, son. Let's go to low. Oh, right there about 350. So you're bumping down about, trimming off about 50 bird with that thing, man. We already know what the peak's going to be. Back on high. Oh, 1,000 watts, my friend. 1,000 watts. We don't even need to hook up the hot radio on this thing, man. This thing's doing 400 bird without the hot radio. There's even no need to even hook it up. I mean, I'll hook it up still if you want me to. You probably get about 500 plus out of it. This thing is working wonderful, man. Retuned the input. That definitely made the watts come up just a bit. I'd probably say about 40 bird from what it was doing. But this thing is it's working well, man. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. All right, we're just gonna give a quick key on the hot radio one time. I'll be right back. All right, we got the Stickman Modified. Went ahead and lit me up a celebration stove too, man, on this. I should have done that from the get-go. All right, this is a Stickman Modified. We're doubling our input from 4 watts RMS to 8. Okay, we're on high. Dude, right there about 500 watts RMS. Dude. Had a frog in my throat right there. Oh, right there about close to 500, a little bit under 500. And that's dropping about 15.4. Let's see. About 14.8. So there you go, man. 400 watts just with a little bit of drive. 4 watts, 25 watts. Dude, there's no reason to hit this thing with a lot of power, man. Actually, I wouldn't do it if I was you. So that right there is probably peaking about 1,200 watts. Dude, hit this thing about 800 watts, man. 900 to Mobile. Let's hit this Y mode up, man, so I can get out of here. We're going to plug it up. I'll be right back. Got to hook the 12 volts up to it, too. Be right back. Alrighty, man. I want to apologize. I was watching the video I just recorded a little earlier, and I noticed I had called you Dave. I think I was thinking about Davemade. I'm going to light up this old Celebration cigarette real quick here. Because this truly is a Celebration cig for me. Ooh, we got a lot of stuff to get ready for man chest stuff. Alrighty. Alright, I was in quite a rush earlier. You probably could tell with the video. when I plugged this bad boy in, first thing I noticed was the transmit LED, which is right here, was on. The second I plugged it in, and this LED right here was on. So this LED right here is your low LED, okay? Just like with these LEDs. With this LED's on right here, you're on high. When that LED at the bottom's on, you're on low. When that LED is on, you're on low. When it's not on, you're on high, okay? Power LED, preamp LED, SSB LED, low LED. There's your transmit LED. As a lot of y'all probably other techs know, and other people that's done a lot of extensive wiring like this, when you're dealing with multiple relays, you can deal with weird, mysterious backfeeding. Pardon the pun. That's what I like to call it. Very mysterious backfeeding. And I mean, it's wild how DC can flow mysteriously sometimes. I mean, so I won't get deeply into it, but sometimes you have to control things with diodes. Sometimes you have to shunt things to ground. Sometimes you have to reroute things differently, add resistors here differently. And I'm going to tell you something else too. An LED can emit and be forward biased without a dang ground. If you don't believe me, check it out. It can be. That's what that one was doing. I had to actually switch some things around and put the current limiting resistor on the other side other than the ground. Yeah, it usually doesn't matter, but in this case it did. But anyway, we got it all straightened out, man. And you won't never ever hear me say that I'm bragging about myself or anything like that, and I won't say it now. But I'm very happy with the way this worked out, man. I have not done a fully remote head driven setup like this since that 2-drive-in-8 that I'd done almost 3 or 4 years ago plus, with the 6 blue fans, the one that's got the most views on my channel there. And it wasn't very pretty inside, but it was very technical and and was wired like, I think it had about the same amount of relays this bad boy right here has. But and also one other thing, I mean, when you're doing this thing, you can have all the diagrams you want. Sometimes you're just gonna make simple mistakes, and I mean, that's just how it is when you're dealing with so much wiring. But I always like to draw diagrams and schematics to keep myself straight, so I can double check, triple check, make sure everything's perfect. You know, test every inch in. And the only other thing that I noticed that I had accidentally done was the SSB delay here. The wire hooking it up was just on the wrong leg of the switch. I mean, just simple things like that. So sometimes you just got to go behind yourself, double check things. Hey, no one's perfect. And, you know, sometimes I'll do things perfect on the first try sometimes, but most of the time that's not the way it happens in the real world. All right, man. Well, sometimes I do have to carry my work with me places I go. I'm not at the normal place, as you can see. I'm not at the normal place that you always see me doing videos at. I'm out here on the front porch out here, man. Getting ready for Manchester. Got a lot to do. So here you go, brother. There's your remote. A turns you on. Alright, and as you see, this LED is on right here because you are currently on high. Okay? Off. Alright, now don't forget, your preamp is an invert circuit. Excuse me, your preamp has a invert circuit, so you can use your preamp with a box and barefoot mode. That's what B is. Okay? So your preamp LED's on. That's the second LED right there. Turn that off. Preamp. C is SSB. D is where we're going to switch it over to low. Now look at your LEDs right here. I'm going to click it again and put you back on high. Low. So everything is perfectly interchangeable. Okay. This Y mode controls this box just like you would control with these switches up here. Okay. Now, here's something you need to know. When you turn something on with this remote, you need to turn it off with the same remote when you get done using this amp, okay? I could have hooked everything up to where certain things wouldn't happen unless you had this A on, but it started getting kind of crowded in the box here, man. I don't know how I fit everything in there that I did, but I like to try to fit everything in there safely. Here's another thing. Every Y mote is always fused. Always. I always fuse every Y mote, and I'm going to tell you something else. Any wired remote hooked up to an amplifier needs to be fused. I'm not being a little wuss here. I promise you, I've learned from personal experience. I remember I made myself a little remote, put it in a plastic box like 4 years ago. And one day I was driving down the road. I don't know what the heck happened. I think what it was just my old 4-pill I was running. Something happened with the ground or something. It was relying on the ground. See, that's not something else I will always do. I always run an extra ground to the board. I don't care. I never rely on the case for a ground for that. Now, as you see with my LEDs, I run separate. I put tabs on the actual holders for grounds with that, but they are sanded down. They are on their type. Those are good grounds. Makes it good and clean. Don't have to run the individual wires to the board. Make it look all nasty. But never when you're actually relying on an actual ground for some decent current. Not decent, but current. You know what I'm saying? Other than an LED. So even when you're using the regular 1/4-inch plug remotes, it's always good to have a ground. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, just to be safe, it's always good to at least put you a little fuse in there. Because you got to think about it like this. You got power coming from the box, from your hot bus, that's not fused, going through 18 foot of cable, or however cable you're going through, to the remote, from the remote back to the box. And you also have a ground as well. If something happened inside this box or inside that remote, it's going to melt that wire down and feed straight back to your box. I understand the wire might not be thick enough to cause any major damage with a fire or anything like that. It's probably going to pop and you're going to be fine. But still, it just ain't worth the risk. It's always good to have a remote. If I ever do a wired remote, I always put a fuse on it. It's always good. Any kind of wire leaving somewhere and coming back to it needs to be fused. Alright, bud. Only other thing I'll show you real quick is we'll turn it back on. And I'm going to show you the high and low again, because that's the neatest feature on here to me. That's high, low, high, low, high, back off. So this thing sewed up, man. We're going to get the side on here, put the top back on there. I like the way it looks with the Dave upright like that. I actually didn't get to talk to Dave directly today, but I talked to him through someone today. And he did explain that he did make them on purpose that way. That was his design. The best way to do it is put some feet on the top where the fan is, turn it upside down. That's his style and the way he likes it. But with this one right here, I just kind of went with my gut there and turned it around, and put some feet on the